Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and welcome to the final discussion on Gloomhaven. This is going to be a long one, I think. It might not be, but I do have a lot to say about this game because a lot has happened since its release. So, as with every major series that I do on the channel, or series in general, I usually do a preliminary discussion after, my kind of, not really initial thoughts, but my thoughts on the game. But usually, since they're a series, it's a long campaign, then I would always do a discussion afterwards over the overall experience. And normally, it doesn't take me years to complete one. Actually, it kind of does, because campaign games just take a lot of time, and I'm an adult, so I don't have all the time in the world. And I usually play these with other people, so it's, working with their schedules and stuff. You would have thought that me doing Gloomhaven by myself would have been done quicker, but alas, here we are. Gloomhaven came out in 2017. At the time of this recording, it is 2022. So I started, I of course played Gloomhaven with people and stuff like that, but I started the series because I was like, oh, it'll be easier for me to get done. It has taken me 5 years to complete the main story. And even then, the main story, yeah, it's like, it ends, but there's no real, it doesn't really tell you that it's over. The overall, kind of the conclusion does feel, especially with Foreteller, does kind of feel like it's finally done, and it's alluding to a lot more. But whenever you get reputation and prosperity, and you get city events added, then it's like, oh, I guess you can keep playing, and you can. So I'm gonna try and do this as spoiler-free as possible. But if you're here, then you've at least finished the campaign, or you want to know my thoughts. So Gloomhaven, like I said, came out 5 years ago, and the reason why I rushed getting this one done was because at this time Frosthaven is being developed, which is a bigger box. It broke all the records on Kickstarter for how much it made. Has a bunch of aspirations. I've seen a comparison comparison picture of the size of Gloomhaven to the size of Frosthaven, and I've seen Frosthaven at Gen Con, and I saw the box and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But without actually comparing the size of it to Gloomhaven, I thought it was the same box size, and this is roughly the size of the box. Frosthaven is that much bigger, if you can even see it, it's like that much bigger, and I don't know how much wider, but it's a beast. It's a beast of a game. So I was like, well, I don't know if they connect or anything, so I'll go ahead and get this done. So I did kind of speed run the main story. So once you're done with the overall campaign, this was kind of like, yeah, all right, you did that. You can go do your side stories. You can do, you can still level them up and all that, but I don't really feel like there's a point to doing it. It's yeah, in a lot of other games, video games especially, when you complete the main quest, and it doesn't hard end, then you can go out and do everything else. So you can 100% it if you wanted to. I've never been kind of that guy to do that in video games, and I don't anticipate myself doing it here. You might also be thinking, oh, well, there's an expansion, and there is the, what was that expansion called? Forgotten Circle expansion, which adds 30 new scenarios and stuff, and I haven't played that, and I'm most likely, I might play it on the channel at some point, but I'm going to take a break at least from Gloomhaven itself because I'll be getting Frosthaven soon, so I'll want to dive into that. Yeah, okay, so where to begin? Well, let's talk about So Gloomhaven is #1 on Board Game Geek. Take their ranking and stuff for what you will, but a lot of people do take that into consideration when looking at games, at least their top 100, to see what most people view as the best game ever made. And Gloomhaven being a #1 for 5 years, eclipsed Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which was #1 for when that came out, and then now Gloomhaven is there. I think Gloomhaven's still there. Let me pull that bad boy up just so I'm not really talking out my ass. Gloomhaven. Yes. overall number 1. And there's just so much to this game, and it's just really set the bar for fantasy-style campaign games. And whenever I ranked this game initially, I gave it a 10 out of 10. And after 5 years, do I still rank it a 10 out of 10? I absolutely do. It's just, there's so much going for it. There's things about Gloomhaven I don't like, justifiably, that I could drop it to a 9. And over time, maybe with Frosthaven coming out, I won't see a reason to play this again. Maybe they've expanded upon the mechanisms and the story and the scenarios and stuff. But maybe I can't ever see Gloomhaven ever dropping below a 9 out of 10 for me. But it's still just everything that it's done, and to like the things that I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of annoying, or that's more for gameplay mechanisms, not really for any type of theme, is eclipsed because the amount of content you get in this game is astounding for its price point. $100, even Frosthaven was like $150 or something like that. It's insanity because he went the smart route of making generic looking tiles, because it allows players to and content creators and all that to just make scenarios, and you don't have to be like, well, this has a fountain on it, I don't want a fountain. It's just very bland overall for that creative purpose. And then also going the standee route, but just making the minis, like the characters you play as, their miniatures, and then everything else is standees. Now, at this point, they've announced they're doing a miniature Kickstarter, so everything gets minis, and they're doing other stuff. But what you get in this box for $100 just supersedes any type of negatives that I could bring up. But as with most of my discussions, I will bring it up. So there are things about Gloomhaven that I find kind of weird and just actually kind of annoying at times. So one of those is actually rectified, because at this point he has also made Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which I've done a series for that, so you can definitely go check that out. And that obviously got a 10 out of 10 as well, and that's even more of a 10 out of 10 because it has one of the best tutorial systems. So yeah, a negative of this Gloomhaven is its rulebook. It is a behemoth of a rulebook sitting at 50 pages. Some of it is you can kind of ignore, but honestly, with one, there's multiple how to play videos you can also watch, but yeah, this is not the easiest point of entry. But to rectify this, you can just, you'd have to pay, but you can go to Target, pick up Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which those characters you can throw in here, and it teaches you this. The tutorial system is fantastic. So this rulebook is actually a non-issue now because Jaws of the Lion exists. I've played so much Gloomhaven over the 5 years of Jaws of the Lion. I've played the Steam version, I've played this, that for the most part, I know the rules off the top of my head. It's like, well, like one question that was recently coming up is like some of the cards that let you keep redrawing. It's like, well, do you have to? Probably, would be the answer. But there's those little minutia things that come up with any game, so it's not really a Gloomhaven fault. Component-wise, I actually have no issues with the cards or the tokens or anything. I've already kind of talked about it. I hate these tiles. These tiles suck to look at. Probably every negative is going to come with a positive. Even though these do look generic, the story and the writing and the scenarios themselves, along with the gameplay, it's not really that big of a deal. But because Jaws of the Lion has come out and they used a book which actually has artwork on it, and it's just like, oh, we're going to scenario 5, boom, it's this and a supplementary map page. That is, by far superior to these tiles. Even when you're like, well, the tiles can be used for, community scenarios or custom scenarios or whatever. That's great. The tiles exist for that, and that's awesome. I'm not playing those. I'm playing what the game has brought, so And I believe Isaac has mentioned that he is going to make those scenario books for Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. So it's like eventually that will come, and then you'll have the tiles and you'll have the book. So there's already a fix coming in for that. But yeah, it'd be awesome if you had this scenario book for the story. Like for the finale, for example. It's like, oh, we're doing the finale. That's this scenario. Okay, find that. That's the same page in this book. So open up, boom, you're already there. You don't have to mess with the tiles. Another negative is, which also has a fix, but this costs a little bit more money, is I would not have been playing Gloomhaven as much as I was, even though it still took me 5 years, if I did not have the Broken Token insert, which, I mean, Broken Token had that whole ordeal. Obviously, I bought this before that, but it's almost a must. And this is not really Gloomhaven's fault. This is basically almost any game for me at this point. If it doesn't have a decent insert, it's incredibly annoying and I don't play it as much, especially campaign games. So if you're going to play this, definitely get an insert of some sort. It doesn't have to be Broken Token. I know there's other companies out there. In fact, for Frosthaven, Cephalofair pulled away, and so now they're working with someone else for the insert for that. But it's fantastic. It's easily, play it, like, you just quickly pop them out and everything's organized. But yeah, before the insert, it was a slog of just so many bags and stuff. It's a mess. So that's kind of component-wise. That's the overarching game. So then other negatives I have actually do come around gameplay. Now, over the 5 years, I have absolutely loved the hand management aspect of this game. I think it makes so much sense of, your character getting worn down. Like, if you're gonna tank a ×2 critical hit, you can just be like, I'll just burn this card. Initially, when I started the series, I was not losing it, I was discarding them, because I was like, well, that's a little too busted. But then, as time went on, I got better at the game. Yes, I was starting to actually get them lost. And yeah, so I can't even remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I was talking about the hand management stuff. But there are the items. The items are actually kind of my least favorite part of the game, and in a level up system kind of RPG style game, there's so many items and there's so many ways to build your character, and that's super fucking cool. What doesn't make any thematic sense for me is, and I've played this so many times and I still cannot even try to think of a thematic way, is if so much, like the brute, like for example, has, shield bash or whatever. Most of the titles on these cards are like they're vague. They don't really ever say like a very specific type of weapon or anything. So because if I want to wield a battle axe, I can, and it's not going to sound weird when I'm like, oh, I want to use my battle axe on this bow attack. But here's the thing that I don't like about some of these items is that they're one-time use. And some of them, like the winged boots are examples, like you tap them. That, okay, sure, it's like, it'd be broken if I could just jump everywhere. So to specialize a jump, I use the wing, and it's like they have to recharge or something, or I have to fix them or whatever. That's fine. It's the weapons that are spent, or whatever, consumed. That is actually something I actively dislike. It doesn't make any thematic sense for me to be like, well, I have my battle axe, like, why is it now gone? Like, because it turns like an attack into like one major attack into like 2, so I can hit 2 enemies with it. Cool, yeah. Like, make it to where it's tapped, because the only way you get these back is either through another item, like a consumable. Consumables should just go away. Which I still like the fact that it's like you just need purchase one consumable, and then it's not like, oh, put that back in the deck. It's just gone for that scenario. You get it back. I very much like that. So it's like, for my Battle Axe, for example, why isn't this just tappable? And if I want to refresh it through like a star earring or something, well, this is one-time use. So it's not like I'm going to constantly be untapping this and be like, oh, haha, I'm breaking your game. if I have to burn a consumable. Consumables should be one-time use. Weapons just should not be. I think that that's very, very stupid. It makes no actual sense. And the battle axe is the one I have with me, but it's not just the battle axe. Like, for example, let's go to weapons. Watch, now I'm gonna be eating my ass. It's just the battle axe. The piercing bow has it. The warhammer has it. Ancient drill has it. The skullbane axe. Okay, so a lot of the two-handed weapons have it. The one-handed ones actually were all tapped. Like the long spear or hook chain were tapped. Let's see. Armor is kind of tapped. Well, never mind. It's not that big of a deal. It's still there, and it's still stupid, because it's like, well, why is that one in particular? Or the two-handed ones, like the ones that give you pierce. It's like, just make it tap, because, like, you're not long resting all the time anyway. One, it makes you go last in initiative. Yeah, you heal 2, you still lose a card. You just get to choose it, so it's not like you're going to be constantly untapping your cards anyway. Yeah, so that's just kind of one thing that I did not like. The other thing is this is a fully cooperative game, but he put in the fog of war bullshit. I have never, I mean, I guess I kind of follow it, but I don't like that, where it's like, oh, the imperfect communication, you can't really say what you're gonna do. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I've done, and to this day it's basically house ruled, is, how fast are you going? What's your initiative? Because, or it's like, well, you need to go slower than a 15, because I personally don't like that. I think it's really dumb. Yeah, thematically in the chaos of the battle, where I'm fighting a bunch of skeletons and you're over there fighting a cultist, we can't be like, hey, like, come attack him. But I've always held to this mentality of theme doesn't always make good game mechanisms, and I kind of find that annoying in a strategic Euro-style cooperative game. The other thing that's kind of hand-in-hand with that is that, so you're a party, you're like a guild, not really a guild, but you're a mercenaries that are hired on, and it feels kind of semi-cooperative about certain things, and it's just kind of dumb. Like, loot is not shareable. So whenever an enemy dies, you drop a coin down on them, or on their spot. And it almost feels like a race to be like, oh, I'm going to run there and I'm going to use my loot card and I'm going to pick all that up. And I'm going to get all the money. But it's like, well, it's like, okay, yeah, fine. It's not like you can have someone go pick it up and then share the money with your party. That's not allowed. I don't know why that was ever a design. It's like, compromise, like, yeah, someone's still gonna have to go out of their way to go pick that up, and I guess that's why it's like you're supposed to share. Like, okay, well, there's 5 coins lying around, you go over there and pick 2 up, and then you pick 2 and I'll pick, because I need the money to be able to buy an item. I've just never really liked that, the individualized money for each character. It just feels like a way to arbitrarily make it difficult, because if you could have all the money in the world to buy stuff, then you would be decked out with, good items. But my counter to that argument would be, well, then if share items, make the difficulty higher. I mean, especially in solo, the difficulty is 1 level up anyway. You can choose to play on easy, normal, hard, or very hard, which is, oh, okay, our average level, let's say it's 5. Well, let's play on hard and make it 6. So that's just kind of a way to fix that. Like, so that would be my house rule, is if you want to do the individual money, like everyone's greedy, then play on whatever difficulty you want, obviously. But if you want to share it, then compensate that by making the levels harder. It shouldn't be there anyway. Every other game, every other cooperative game that's like styled like this, like Madara or Tainted Grail or any of those, it's kind of like, yeah, well, we're a party, or D&D, we're a party, we have money, like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy this for you. So that's kind of a small negative. Another negative, and this is more of just what I've seen, and it's been so long since I've started Gloomhaven, but I've seen it multiple times, is this is a very difficult game at the very beginning. Like, the first scenario is not player friendly at all. It is borderline busted. It almost seems like the game wanted you to feel like pressure that the whole campaign was going to be like, but it doesn't play out that way. In the long run, as you get stronger, you start facing off and being able to handle almost anything thrown at you. But at the very beginning, it's like, oh my god, we can't even beat this, and you have to be able to beat the first scenario to progress. Luckily, it's a board game, so you can just be like, okay, yeah, we beat it, whatever, let's just keep going. Yeah, you might be cheating, but if the first scenario isn't balanced, then that's not fun for anyone. Let's see. Other kind of gripes. This is really more nitpicking stuff. So, and this is also a benefit to Gloomhaven overall, is there are so many characters, and the 5 you start with is the Brute, the Sorceress, the Mind Thief, the Cragheart, and the Scoundrel. There's 5 classes you can pick from at the very beginning, and they all play radically different. This is such an amazing... I love the fact that Gloomhaven is high fantasy, but it doesn't feel generic. At least to me. Like, the races that he's put in just feel unique. Yeah, the classes are what you're going to see in fantasy until you get to, the unlocked ones, but the 5 you start out with just play so radically different. It's fucking awesome. This game has so much depth to it on the characters of how you want to build them, because based off the items of what you want to get, can accentuate certain characters better than others. Like the piercing bow obviously works super well for the Scoundrel, but you can build the Scoundrel in so many different ways that, hey, the piercing bow might not actually be good for you. And I've seen all the main 5 played. I have personally played the Brute, the Sorceress. It was Safra and Yargo for the majority of the campaign, and then I'm playing the Scoundrel on my Steam game, and I've played the Cragheart for the community scenarios, which you can go watch those. I've done one community series. The only one I have not played personally is the Mind Thief. And what's kind of annoying about the characters is the retirement system. This is actually kind of something that I don't enjoy, because as you gain XP, you level up. You get to pick between one of 2 cards of that level or anything beneath it. If you really like the both level 4 cards, then you can be like, oh, okay, I have my level 4, the one I picked when I turned level 4, now I'm just, instead of these level 6s, I'm going to take that other level 4. And you always have your hard limit of whatever your character has. The Sunkeeper can be 11, is 11, the Brute's 10. So you have to kind of really decide on how you want to build it, and you fine-tune it. And usually the higher level cards are better than, they're like, oh, like one of the Sunkeepers was like, hey, you can make an ally attack 6 instead of attack 4. And you can play it to where you have both of those in your deck, but you're giving up something else. Or you can just swap it out and be like, hey, now you can just do a stronger attack. Anyway, all that to be saying, I hate the retirement system. It's anticlimactic, and honestly, it makes you not want to level up, because, or at least not want to level up. Sorry, it makes you not want to complete your personalized goal, because part of character creation is everyone gets a personalized goal, and some are just gonna happen. Like, I think the personal goals are not balanced, because some of them should be, or some of them are, like, you have to go out of your way to do it. Like, like for Safra, my sorceress, she had to kill a certain number of forest imps. And hers, Iris, my Sunkeeper, she had to buy 4 power enhancements. And those are fucking expensive. And you have to go out of your way to even do that. So it's like, okay, well, she's never retiring. Yargo had to kill one of every type of demon, and there was only ever one instance that, because he never retired, he had to kill a sun demon. And there was one scenario I came across in the entire series where a sun demon showed up. And because I didn't want him to retire, I didn't kill it. Like, I had Sofra, I basically pulled him away, and I was like, I'm just going to play him in a way to keep him, from doing that, because I want to get him to level 9. But then there are some that I've seen where it's just like, hey, kill 4 bosses. Well, you're going to come across bosses, so that's just going to happen. So your characters are sometimes forced to retire. You never really get to see their potential. And others, you do get to never retire them. And it's like, okay, well, I kind of want to now. Like, luckily, I really enjoyed playing the Brute and the way I built him. He was just a tanky, hard-hitting motherfucker that just did super well surprisingly, with my Sunkeeper towards the end. But yeah, it was just a really great dynamic. He was awesome. But if you can really ramp him up to a high level and they hit level 9 early, well, then you're not really experienced. You don't need to worry about experience anymore, and you might get bored with them, and then you might want to retire them. But then you might have to go out of your way to do it. Or if you never get them to level 9, and you're like, well, I guess he's done. He just wants to go away. And then the anticlimactic part is, at a city event, it may never show up. Like, I don't believe we ever saw Sofra's. I'd have to double check, but I'm like almost like 100% positive that it just never showed up, because you just randomly draw a city event. So it's like, well, if they're going to retire, it would be really cool if they had an epilogue, like if every character had a retirement epilogue, but that can't happen because it's a random personal goal. Now, I've heard Frosthaven does something different. To my understanding, Frosthaven, when your character retires, they open up like a shop. So when you retire, there's actually like some reward for it versus just some random event. So clearly, Isaac and company found that the retirement was lame in Gloomhaven, so it's fixed in Frosthaven. It's not the worst thing. Again, all these negatives I'm bringing up are just, nitpicks or gripes, because you can pretty much actively avoid whatever they're trying to do. And you, like, for her, the one character I retired is I went out of my way to do it. And yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much it on like negatives. Like, anything that I would gripe about after playing for 5 years, it's those are all pretty much it, and it has never once ever caused me to be like annoyed. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'll do my battle axe, but do I want to do it now? Yeah, I'm gonna do it on my crippling offensive card, my one that hits for 6 and wounds and stuns, and then boom, I'm gonna hit both of these, elites. And then I'm going to draw, and it's a +1, and then, it pierces, and it's a +3, and now they're wounded and stunned, and they're just dead. And it feels awesome. So it's like, okay, well, that's not that big of a deal. Like I said, the tiles aren't that... And retirement, I only retired one character. And even then, like, I guess some people might have an issue with the fact that out of all the characters, like I said, there's 5 starting ones. I believe there's 10 unlockable characters. I have seen one. I have seen one character that is unlocked, and it is the Sunkeeper. So I guess spoiler there. And even then, I don't even believe some of the personal quests unlock characters. I thought they all did, but I think the Brutes, the one I had for him, doesn't. I don't think it opens up a box. So to get some of those characters, you have to play multiple times or just come across certain ones that do unlock them. Oh no, there was another one. Yeah, the Sunkeeper came from getting a certain, I think it was a reputation thing, and unlocking, where was it? Yes, reputation of 10 or higher. And the other one, I think it was like the Doom Slayer, something like that. He came out from a retirement, and so I have no idea how so I guess I've seen 2. I forgot about him. I almost played him, but I was like, I'll go with a support. So yeah, so I have seen 2 out of the, I believe, 10 unlockable ones, so there's 8 other characters, and I honestly have no idea what any of them are. I've actively avoided it, just because I thought, it's like, oh yeah, I want to, keep playing. Now, Gloomhaven's overall story, it is relatively branching. Like, you do get to make decisions. They're pretty obvious on kind of the decisions you want. It's like, it is relatively, do you want to be good or do you want to be bad? Like, do you want to be high reputation or low reputation? And I've played both ways. Like, this story, I was obviously going like the best guild, all for Gloomhaven and good people. I always, in any type of choice-based RPG, I always play good my first playthrough. Like the best you can ever be. And in on my Steam app game, I'm playing the kind of like the evil one, like where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be a dick, or I'm gonna be extremely selfish and conceited, and that's how we're gonna make our decisions. And we'll make decisions based off how the biggest benefit that we can get. And there are some decisions you make along the story that, what's unfortunate about the overall narrative of Gloomhaven is that the scenarios don't ever really reciprocate the decisions you make. It's kind of like, oh, we made this decision at an event. Okay, that's kind of lame. Like, sure, yeah, all right, yeah, that might come back up, and maybe he wanted it to be more natural, that it's like, hey, okay, we made this decision, but this was all the way over here on the other side of the map, so no one's heard about it, and then now they finally have, so it came up, and it's like, oh, hey. But yeah, you don't really do a whole lot of like scenarios that it's like, oh, because you did this, then you can do this. There are those, like, whenever you do something, yeah, there are scenarios you can't do now, and they're locked out, but especially if you're starting the game, it is kind of confusing on which ones you can and can't do. Now, because it has taken me 5 years to play, it's kind of hazy on everything, but actually, I'm almost caught up with the main story on my Steam one, because it's just quicker to break out the scenarios. And I think the overall narrative, the narrative was fine. Like, it wasn't dull. The writing is really good. Foreteller, I cannot stress enough how much Foreteller is almost needed for this game. And it is phenomenal. Like, they just knocked it out of the park with, I want to say Foreteller started with Gloomhaven, and because the voice acting, the sound effects, the music is just so atmospheric. It's like when I was listening to that finale one, I was like, oh man, I am pumped. And it just really enhances the experience. So yeah, like, that really makes the narrative happen, or the overall story just feel rich and inviting. And it's like, oh man, yeah, I'm totally down for these scenarios. But yeah, like, the finale, I was like, ooh, this is exciting. Like, what's going on? Like, yeah, we did all this stuff, and now we're coming back home, and who's Hale? Like, why is she a big deal? We just kind of came across her on one scenario, and now she's kind of our buddy, but how does she come into this? And then, yeah, I guess, like, whenever you're doing all the scenarios, I know from what I've heard that they fixed this in Frosthaven, but a lot of the scenarios are just kill all enemies. I feel like that's more of a product of just this game being designed in 2017, and like, it was like, oh, 90 scenarios in one big box, and it's like, yeah, there are 90 plus scenarios, but like 60 of them are kill all enemies. Not to say there aren't unique ones, or it's like, do this or loot this tile. Like, there is some variation, but a lot of them are kill all enemies, and it's like, ugh, open all rooms, kill all enemies. I thought the boss fights were actually really good, which is something to say about a board game, because some boss fights are in board games, like Folklore, for example, is kind of like, oh, you just have a bunch of health. Or even Madara has that, where it's like 400 health. Really? 400? So we're just here for 2 hours, just doing, okay, that's cool. And Gloomhaven didn't do that. They actually had the special abilities of these bosses be unique, and there were a lot of ones where it's like, oh, how am I gonna beat you? Like, how am I, like, I have to play really strategic. A good example, I thought one of my favorite boss fights was the I think it was like called the Knight Rider, and he would like teleport through the woods, and it's like he would just rush at you, and it's like, but you knew where he was coming, but you didn't. So you had to prep for it because he was going to get there before you. So it's like, well, if he hits you, then it's like, well, that's just gonna mess up all my plans. So you had to basically bait him out and be like, okay, if he comes out of here, I'm gonna be just out of reach, and then he's gonna come out, and it's like, haha, and then so you had to play a lot, really strategic. The final boss, I think was a product of it suffered because of the randomness. I really like the atmosphere and the design of the final boss. It wasn't frustrating. He obviously had the most health out of any enemy at 96 or something. And I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem. But it really wasn't because of he hits hard. One of his attacks is literally like 16. And it's like, well, that would almost completely kill me. And the fact you take 2 damage at the end of every round, it was like, yeah, if I just tank that, then I'm just dead. I don't have enough healing to be able to counteract that. But because of the nature of being like, well, that's going to hit me, I guess I'll discard that or lose this to not take any of that damage. Compensates for that. But because he was basically teleporting around the arena and would shoot you and wound, stun, and poison you, it's like, oh, that's rough. But he never did that. Like, I can see this being one of the final fight being either really easy, like it kind of was for me, because it was kind of like, oh, I'm just going to have Yargo sit in front of him, my brute, and freaking Juggernaut, and just take no damage for 3 attacks. And he did his special every single time. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have her bless him and have him do multiple attacks while he just sits there and takes no damage. And there was at one point she can have someone take a lost card back. I thought about Juggernaut and just having him pop that back down and absorb another 3 hits while he's willing him down. I didn't do that. And that would have been a way bigger issue had he actually been doing his special 2 around. If he was popping from A to B to C and just sniping us, and it's like, oh my god, because if he hits you, you're stunned. So then that would leave one of us to go out and do it. So the final boss, I could see either being extremely frustrating or relatively simple. And you kind of have to find that balance. Maybe some people are getting, like, I felt like he teleported twice, and that was a big deal, and that was pretty much it. But with 96 health, I still feel like it was pretty balanced. She exhausted. She had no health left, and he had 2 cards left. So, like, she was exhausted from health. He was going to be exhausted from cards. So maybe it was a lot more balanced than I thought. And I guess it was a lot more enjoyable because it wasn't frustrating, which was just so nice. So they did a really good job on the boss fights. And overall, I think the narrative is good. I'm excited to see what Frosthaven brings in terms of narrative and like how much they've advanced, especially how they interact, like how they utilize the new scenarios in fun ways instead of just being like kill all enemies. It's like, okay, maybe they do a lot of cool other stuff or like use the terrain a little bit better, like to make it a little bit more interactive and fun. Yeah, I honestly like this game is just, it's done just so much. It's no surprise that Frosthaven killed every single, goal like it killed it on Kickstarter. I love also the fact that, like I said, you can build the characters in so many cool ways. I love that every class has different ways of even changing your modifier deck. Like the Scoundrel, for example, on my Steam game, is he has like 5 cards in his modifier deck. Like he has no negatives. Like the way he was, no negatives. So his only negative card is a miss. And then he has, obviously, his ×2, and the rest are +0s or +1s, or even more +2. So it's all positive. But because he has a thin deck, he has a higher chance of drawing that miss, but he has an equally higher chance of drawing the crit. So you kind of got to decide that. If you want a fat, thick deck, like Yargo has, then less chance of you getting to your miss, but also less chance of you getting to your crit, and he doesn't have a whole lot of multiple draws. He actually has no way of getting rid of his -2. But he has a lot of positives in here. He has ways to stun, disarm. The modifier deck, I adore. Like, I would probably hate this game if it had dice. Like, I don't know. It works for me. The 2-card system is just a brilliant design. absolutely unique. Like, there was like no game, especially when Gloomhaven first came out, that utilized amazing card. It was always dice. And Madara, which I'm absolutely loving, wears on me after playing a couple games because the dice just are like, okay, well, this scenario is easy because the dice are going our way, or it's hard because they're not. Like, that's not fun. That's not great design. It's like, but in here, because of the way of you being able to pick two cards, and you're like, I'm gonna do Shield Bash and Crippling Offensive, because I want to do this bottom and this top, and then the enemies reveal their initiatives, and you're like, change your plan. I'm going to do this bottom and this top. You have some compensation. Yeah, there might be a wrench thrown in where you can't do anything. That's just going to happen, but it's few and far between, and you just have to eat that. Like, if the game was always going your way, then just say you won and just read the story. The characters are so in-depth, and it's all just... like, it's all brought up by the fact that this game is not expensive. I mean, $100 might be expensive to some people, but like in the grand scheme of things of these kinds of games, you're usually eating $300, $400, $500, and this is like, nah, $100. And then the fact that Isaac and company have basically just given over like not the rights, but to be like, yeah, you want to do community stuff? Cool. Like, there's a literal fan-made massive expansion being made called Crimson Scales, I think, and it's like, yeah, you it's like basically another big box of this, and it's fan-made, and Isaac isn't out suing them. Like, I think they're making money off it. I don't know if they're sharing that money. I would assume they're like, they have a portion that they have to give over to Isaac, but it's like, yeah, no, if you want to do like the community scenarios, while I don't think we're great, were still a really cool idea, because it was like the fans voted on which direction they wanted to go, and it's like, okay, yep, here you go, here's the written scenario, print it off, use the stuff you already have. You don't have to buy or make or get anything new. It's just, yep, if you have Gloomhaven, then you can do these scenarios. They have solo scenarios I haven't done. I'm actually curious now to see what the removable sticker set is, because I obviously haven't touched it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look it up, but I think the reason why the power enhancements are so expensive is because I think they stay from character to character. I think that's the legacy portion of like, okay, well, I upgraded this Leaping Cleave to have a move +1 at the bottom. I think that stays. I think from now on, if you're playing as the Brute, that stays, but I could just be really making that up. One other very aesthetically pleasing thing I enjoy about this is I really enjoyed that this was like a drawn map, but the locations you come across are colored. I think that's a really cool aesthetically pleasing system, and especially because you can just look out. Like, now you can look at my map, maybe. And even then, I still didn't do... Oh god, I don't want to rip this. What didn't I do, like, in terms of scenarios? So, well, these are the achievements that I didn't get. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 global achievements that I did not get, and three of the ancient technology ranks I didn't get. There are, because I think it goes up to 95, because I think the other sticker sheet, I think this one is the expansion. Yeah, Forgotten Circles. These are map locations. So I didn't get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. I didn't do 41 scenarios. And that's just what I didn't place. There are others on this map that I actively couldn't do because of the decisions I made. So 45, 50 maybe, 50 probably pushing it, out of 95 I did not touch. Like, which is just insane. it's insanity. Like there's so much content here, and it's phenomenal. Like I'm just blown away. I didn't touch. I mean, I did fight quite a few of the bosses, but there are still bosses I didn't mess with. I thought all of the enemies were incredibly unique. Like, and what's really cool about the enemies here is, like, naturally, as you're playing, you're gonna learn about them, and you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I know what these guys can do. Like, when I'm playing my Steam game, it's like, oh, like, my buddy will ask, oh, okay, are these guys super fast? And it's like, yeah. Or, I don't know, I've never fought them. Like, but yes, they're range and they're super fast. So, plan for that. Oh, these guys suck because they curse us, so they increase our chances of missing. These guys suck because they give us disadvantage, or they have high shield and they're want to increase their shields. I just think that the overall, like, enemy design was great. I think the coolness of setting up the campaign or the scenarios are awesome, where he just did that color method of, like, number of players. Oh, hey, if this is black for 2 players, you just don't add them. It's super quick and clean. Yeah, I think for the most part, everything about my initial discussion, which would have been done 5 years ago, it rings true. It's still, like, my love for this game has not diminished. There are more things I am obviously aware of, like, okay, well, that's kind of not great. I've talked about those, but hopefully that's either modified, updated, or completely fixed in Frosthaven. Only time will tell. I know nothing about that game. I have not seen any unboxings or anything. But yeah. Oh, yeah, actually, there was one other kind of negative that I actively hate, and I almost house rule this every single time. So wounds and poison, these are conditions you can get. Wound is that stays, and it deals you a damage every turn. Poison is you take one more attack, or you take one more damage every time you're attacked. One of those, which I cannot remember, whenever you heal, one of them goes away and you get your health back. One of them just gets rid of the status. 22 and 23. Okay. Yes, that is wound. If you are wounded and you heal, it removes the wound, and it and you heal. Poison just removes the token. I hate that. Actually, there's another thing this is one thing I do absolutely hate and have house ruled. So I've house ruled it, that poison and wound work the same way. If you heal, you get your health and you remove the token. If you have both and you heal, you just remove both tokens. Which that is part of the rule. If you have wound and poison and you heal, you just get rid of both. That I feel is fair, but for some reason, again, it's like, well, if I'm healing, why would poison just go away? It's like, if I'm stabbed and I have a magical potion, but, like, my wound heals, but then I still heal, it's like, oh, I'm feeling better. But poison is just for some reason worse. Even though overall I honestly think wound is worse because it's an active ding each time. Anyway, that's one thing I've house ruled of. If you have one, doesn't matter which one, and you heal your health and get rid of the token. If you have both, gets rid of both, but you don't get your health. Because especially early on in this game, you don't have a lot of ways to heal. Like, maybe the 2 characters I had, like Yargo and the sorceress, so my brute, maybe they just didn't have, maybe that wasn't a good pair to start with, so I felt like I only had my healing potion, and so being wounded or poisoned just really sucked. But that was something that I house ruled early on and still do. The other thing I house rule, which is this one is just fucking dumb, is if a character or if an enemy deals no damage or even flat out misses, but their attack has a condition, you still get that condition. Absolutely not. That makes, like, if you miss, why would I still get wounded? Like, unless, again, I am totally, like, misremembering certain rules, but I am, like, pretty sure that no matter what, I can't find it. But I'm pretty sure that even if you miss, the conditions still hit you? No. And if they do, and if they don't, then great, I'm playing it correctly. But if they do, I house ruled that. I don't even really like it if you put a shield up. Like, for example, if I shield bash and I have my steam armor and I use my tower shield, so I have like 4 overall shield, and an enemy goes to attack, they get a +1, but it's still 4 damage, but they have poison. Okay, I take no damage, but I'm still poisoned. That doesn't make any thematic sense. It's like, no, even if you have poison on your blade, hitting my armor doesn't inject the poison into my body. Like, it's like, it should just be if it deals 1 damage. It has to damage you for the conditions to take effect. And that's mainly more for, like, the wound and poison. Like, yeah, like, disarm and stuff kind of makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, it didn't do any damage to me, but it still knocked my sword out of my hand. That's a little bit better. I don't know. It's just kind of like, well, he thought thematically for, like, muddle, stun, and disarm, or immobilize even, but didn't make it, he's like, oh, okay, well, it just works across the board. Yeah, so the negative conditions, while I think are appropriate, and I think they're all, unique, and they're there, and there's ways to get rid of them, I don't like the fact that it's like, oh, I drew my miss, and luckily I did my crippling offensive, and you're still wounded and stunned. No, that doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, that was just kind of stupid. Summons are a little weird in this game. Like, I think summons are kind of meant to just be like, you bring them out and then they move on their own. I house ruled that as well. That's like, well, they're my summons. I'm going to control them and tell them what to do. I think they're just naturally supposed to kind of do what enemies do. They just don't attack you. Don't really like that. But it is what it is. Also house ruled that. Here's the great thing about this game as well, is that all the negatives that I just mentioned, you can either run with them and play the game as is, and if that's great for you and that's how you enjoy it, then that's awesome. But it's so easily house ruled. So if you don't find, like, it's like, oh, I want to share loot. Cool, share the loot. If you find the scenario super easy because you're doing so, bump up the difficulty. Or if you don't really care and you just want to play the game and have a good time, then don't bump up the difficulty. It's just so amazing how customizable this game is, and just how much content there is. Like, these are all the city events I did not add. I think these are expansions, the expansions. So that's the city events I did not add. These are the road events I did not add. These are the road and city events that I went through, and actually some of these are meant to go back in the deck, but I was like, oh, I don't want to keep drawing these. That's lame. So I just got rid of them. Never once felt like I was missing anything. These are events for the expansion, which I was amazed that they even made one expansion for it. Yeah, it's phenomenal. This game is a masterpiece. Honestly, I'm just amazed, and I cannot wait to sink my teeth into Frosthaven. There is one thing, and this is a slight spoiler, more so than kind of what I've already talked about, that might have been spoilers, and it has to do with the runic symbols. Now, I have looked up that is like a mega brain meta puzzle. So, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, there's a scenario you come across that introduces these runic symbols, and you eventually find a way to transcribe them into letters that is our alphabet. And eventually you come across a thing that says, hey, you need to find 10 letters that tells you what a letter is. And at first I was thinking, oh, you're just going to naturally come across these as the campaign progresses. No. You have to do very specific, very stupid specific things to get the letters. And some of them, I was like, who would ever think that? Like I'm not going to give like a specific example, but there's one where it's like one of the symbols is on an item. Cool? Like, yeah, I guess if you got that item and then you were looking at it and you're like, hey, isn't that... But then others just take you to... It's a little much. And so I obviously wasn't going to do that. Like, as I came across them, I was transcribing them, and I was reading, I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. And I need 10 of them. I have 3. So I looked it up, and I was like, okay, what is it? Like, is it something worth doing? And the reward, if I had actually done all the work, I would have been as disappointed as I was by watching Game of Thrones Season 8. Like, it is not... to me, I'm so glad I looked it up, because I would not have wanted to actually scour everything to get these things and be like, what is that? And do the things that it wants you to do just to be like, that's it? Really? So, yeah, I think it was a little much for including something like that. I'm all for puzzles, and I'm all for stuff like that, as long as they're done well in board games. I think they could be really neat. But some of the steps in those 10 steps are not great. And the reward, while cool, obviously not necessary, is just, whatever. Yeah, I loved every second, well, not every second, but mostly every second of playing Gloomhaven. I'm so happy that, like, I am finally done. I might do the Forgotten Circle expansion on the channel. That will be probably at some other time when I don't have 9 other series going through. Just because I know I'm going to want to jump into Frosthaven, and I just wanted to at least finish the main story here. So, after everything is said and done, even though I have not seen 45 plus scenarios, I have not seen 8 out of the characters. I have some gripes with the game, some nitpicks and stuff. On a scale of 1 to 10, Gloomhaven is still a 10 out of 10. It is just... It's just done so much, and I can't imagine... Wait, and that's including Jaws of the Lion. Jaws of the Lion is included in that 10 out of 10. I think they kind of go hand in hand. I would not be opposed to just resetting everything and starting over with different characters. I've played like 3-4 different like campaigns of this, and I've just picked a different character and have enjoyed doing the Black Burrow scenario over and over just with a different character. It is still so much fun. So yeah, those are my final thoughts on Gloomhaven. Yeah, it's finally done. 5 years. 5 years has I've moved, started multiple jobs, got married. Those are the good things. Not everything has been great in those 5 years, but can dwell on those. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you watch this, if you watch the series, again, thank you so much. I do love making this the content for the channel. So as long as you guys are having a good time, then I'm having a good time. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Gloomhaven. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.